Recently, Nikki Haley gave the Republican response to the President's State of the Union speech, and while I didn't pay any attention to it, any more than I did to the State of the Union, the crazy ultra-right most certainly did, and they're not happy. So right-wing commentator and complete nutbag Bryan Fischer decided to take this on. Fischer, for those not in the know, is a talk show host on American Family Radio, and his views are so extreme that it got the American Family Association, owners of said network, declared a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. To get out of that, AFA disavowed pretty much everything that Fischer has said about Muslims, blacks, his claims that the Holocaust was caused by homosexuality, and that Hillary Clinton is a lesbian. Why they haven't fired his ass? That's completely beyond me. But leave it to Bryan Fischer to go off on a rant about what, in retrospect, seems to be a relatively measured and reasonable response by Nikki Haley. So let's take a look at this wild rant, shall we?
Then she said that we would respect, if we were in office, we would respect differences in modern families if we were in control. We would respect differences in modern families. What does she mean by that? She means by that the Republican Party has officially embraced sodomy-based marriage. That's what that means. The Republican Party has officially embraced sodomy-based marriage and the entire homosexual agenda. We would respect differences in modern families.
No, that means that the Republican Party has, at least to a limited degree, embraced reality. That's what that means, and it's a good thing. It also means that Republicans have realized that the only way they're going to get into high public office again is to reject the more wingnut religious crazies like Fischer. This is also a good thing. It's something that I've been recommending for years. It's nice to see that they're going to start taking the first tentative steps toward rationality. See, after every election, the Republican National Committee sends out a questionnaire to all of its members, asking what the hell went wrong and what they can do to make the next election not such a clusterfuck. Every time, I send mine back in saying they need to stop being such a bunch of hyper-religious assholes. They need to return to their roots as actual conservatives, not the mega fundamentalist shitstains they've become. And every time, they ignore me. Now, I can't be the only one doing this. There have to be a lot of registered Republicans who are sick and tired of the party closest to actual conservatism entirely throwing their chances down the toilet. But they've always followed the hyper-religious crowd, and it's cost them membership and votes. Now that the writing is on the wall and religion is going down the tubes in America, maybe they're finally ready to cast off their absurdly religious veneer and get down to actual work. But to people like Bryan Fischer, that terrifies the shit out of them.
But we would insist on respect for religious liberty as a cornerstone of our democracy.
Okay, before he gets into this, I want to pause here. Religious liberty as a cornerstone of American democracy. Well, it all depends on what you mean by that. The cornerstone of American democracy is the Constitution, and the Constitution is very clear that people have a right to practice whatever religion they want to without interference by the American government. This is not an unlimited right. You don't get to go practice human sacrifice because your religion demands it. But within a certain range of ideas, yes, you get to do what you want. Notice this isn't limited to Christianity. This is all religion. And of course, the religious wingnuts don't want this. They want religious freedom to only apply to them. They want to be able to stop other people with other beliefs from having the same kind of freedom they enjoy. And that is not, by definition, religious liberty. Sorry.
So you parse that. Nikki Haley, again, she's the mouthpiece. She's the lackey for the Republican establishment here. We're not going to invest 1 ounce of energy as a party, as a ruling class Republicans. We're not going to invest 1 ounce of energy in fighting to protect natural marriage. We're not going to invest 1 ounce of energy to try to preserve the right of children to be raised by a mom and a dad. We know from the research it's a form of child abuse for a child to be raised in a same-sex household. It is a form of child abuse. All of the best in social research confirms that. And here's Nikki Haley saying, we're not going to fight for those children.
And that's been completely and totally debunked. But don't put it past the ultra-right to lie through their teeth when it suits their purposes. Mark Regeneris, a sociology professor at the University of Texas at Austin, authored a study which stated that children do much better in heterosexual households than homosexual ones. The study has since been completely debunked. Nobody takes it seriously anymore. Well, Nobody but the religious zealots who are desperately looking for anything to support their ridiculous religious beliefs. Of course, as anyone who's familiar with my videos on religious apologetics well knows, the religious find nothing wrong with lying for the Lord.
We're not going to fight for the children that are subjected to a form of child abuse by being raised in a same-sex household. We're not going to fight on that. We're not going to fight for those children. We're done on that issue. All we're hoping for is some shred of religious liberty. You know, it's like the parable.
But you're all done on that issue whether you like it or not. The Supreme Court has ruled. It's now the law of the land. Get over it. But no, these people will never give up. They never surrender. Heck, abortion was decided more than 50 years ago, and that's still a central tenet of their platform. I'm sure some of the real crazies are still pissed off that slavery was outlawed. These morons live in the past. They want to go back to a golden age that never actually existed instead of dealing with issues that modern Americans find important. Fewer and fewer people are buying into their religious bullshit. It's time to grow up and move on. Either that, or they can just continue to sink into irrelevancy.
Parable that Jesus told. Remember the Syrophoenician woman? She said, the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the master's table. And it's like Nikki Haley saying, we are just hoping, pleading with President Obama for just a few crumbs of religious liberty. We're not expecting to protect or preserve natural marriage. We're not even interested in fighting for that. We're not going to fight for kids to have the right to be raised by a mom and a dad. We've surrendered all of that. We have capitulated on all of that. We've run up the white flag. Now all we're hoping for, begging for, is just a few pieces, a few crumbs that fall from the master's table.
Again, you already have religious liberty, but religious liberty starts and ends at you. You don't get to dictate other people's religious liberty. You don't get to have your religion control what other people can do. And that's exactly what you want to do. People like Fischer want a fundamentalist Christian theocracy. They want a Christian version of ISIS where they make the rules and execute the heretics. They want to impose quote-unquote natural marriage on everyone. They don't just want to have it for themselves. And nobody's telling them they can't believe what they want, that they can't do what they want within the confines of their churches and communities. They want to impose their religious beliefs on everyone, whether they want it or not. As I said before, they don't want religious liberty. They want to force their particular Christian values on everyone else and fuck whatever religion the other guy might have. This is really where most people have a problem with the ultra-right religious zealots. If they just wanted to be left alone to believe what they want to believe, to do what their religious faith dictates, within reason of course, then nobody would complain. But they want to force it on everyone else, to make everyone else capitulate with what they believe, regardless of what other people believe. They want to be in control. They want to set the rules. Clearly, they don't understand the meaning of the word freedom. Freedom doesn't mean that you get to tell everyone else what to do. It means that others have the right to do what they want, just as you have the right to do what you want, all within the confines of a cohesive and cooperative society. If you want to have a monogamous heterosexual marriage, go ahead. Enjoy it. If the guy next door is gay, well, he's welcome to have a marriage to whichever legally consenting adult he can get to agree to one. It's none of your damn business, just like what you do is none of his. Neither of you has any influence or control over the other. If the family down the street wants to bow down to Allah or Krishna or a tree in the yard, that's none of your business either. You go to the church of your choice, they can do the same. If they don't want to go to any church at all, that's up to them. This isn't a fundamentalist Christian nation that barely tolerates anyone else, at least until you can forcibly change them into your way of thinking. This is a secular nation with a constitutionally guaranteed secular government that neither protects nor harms any religious belief, at least until it proves itself to be harmful to the people that it's sworn to protect. Idiots like Bryan Fischer do nothing but harm to their own position. They just show the world how irrational and absurd the things that they believe actually are, and the fact that they constantly attack anyone who isn't as extreme as they are just shows how terrified they are that they're quickly becoming irrelevant. I'm glad to see the Republican parties taking their first steps away from hyper-religiosity. Maybe we might get back to having a decent conservative party in this country. I'm not holding my breath, but at least there's some glimmer of hope, and that's certainly more than we've had in many years.